Item one is public participation, and first speaker will be Mr. Lopez.
Hello, y'all. My name is Ascension Lopez Jr., aka AC Big Sarge Lopez. I live at 620 Hidden Valley Drive here in Clarksville, Tennessee. I'm also a grandfather of 8 students that attend the West Creek Education Complex. I'm speaking on my own behalf, and the opinions expressed today are my own and not of any groups or group I'm associated with. Nor do I want this to be political or seen as a criticism to the board members. I'm only here as a concerned grandfather. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you today. I last spoke with y'all several months ago on several topics, offering many suggestions to ease the burdens of the school system. In the speech, I addressed the topic of student safety, highlighting the fact that I would like to see metal detectors in schools. The idea was met with some resistance. Okay, let's be real, lots of resistance. But in light of recent events, I am compelled again to speak on this issue of student safety, especially since my grandchild was standing less than 20 feet from the gunman during, when shots were fired on August 19th, shooting incidents at the West Creek football game. That's probably for me too, Mr. Mayberry there. Well, I know minor eyewitnesses' testimony can be a little blurred during high-risk, intense situations. He did state that the gunman had time to leave, change clothes, come back to witness the chaos that he started, and then leave again. I asked the school board, please hear me out now. I cannot lose another family member to gang violence. Excuse me. And incidents like these are becoming a little too frequent and too thing. So, over the last several months, I was contacted by many members of the community with ideas to improve student safety. The agreed forerunner idea brought from us from a CMCSS internal source was believed. Well, I still believe metal detectors are the best idea. A solution brought by Rich Lutz right there. He came up, he's a substitute teacher, he's a martial arts instructor, and he's a fellow Marine Corps veteran. And he brought us the idea of a veteran mediator program. The VMP would be a staff with plainclothes, maybe paid or volunteer duties, the veteran mediator program, due to the vast increase of problems with the upper school system, it is recommended that the vet program be instead under government sheriff guidance. This program would be where vets and other experienced working with youth would be assigned to be working with the RSOs. Their job will be able to walk the halls, libraries, parking lots, and areas where students congregate and say hello and report if needed. They could be also assist teachers with having teachers send teachers outside the classroom, could talk to them. This would not take the place of the SR, of course, but would be a way to calm the situation down. With the RSOs being so busy in patrolling and responding to the request for assistance, they might need some assistance. The vet would not have a badge or any authority, but instead the eyes and ears of the RSO and the administration. They would be in contact with the main office and maybe wear some ID or dress appropriately. This program could be advised through the MCSS or training and assignment to the sheriff's department. That was Richard Blood's notes. So, on my, finishing up real quickly, I've talked with the sheriff department, he is more than willing to help y'all in any way, all you have to do is ask. He said he's offering an olive branch here. He said he reminded me that he also has a reserve department that would be more than happy to come here and help us, the school system with us, student safety, problems and concerns. So this would be to help our students receive safe education with little cost or no cost of money. And that's the end of my business speech, but if I'm allowed a few more seconds, I just want to congratulate everybody up here that got elected. So we fought hard together and during the election campaign, during the sun and the rain, and I'm very happy that you were able to win your races. This concludes my thank you. This concludes my speech. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Karen England, please.
Good evening. I wanted to talk about a few laws again. This past couple of weeks, I've been getting throughout the entire state, but specifically through the Clarksville schools, a lot of complaints from teachers and students being told they must use a preferred pronoun based on someone's gender identity. So I just want to remind the school board that that's a violation of the U.S. Constitution. It's called compelled speech. And just recently, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which governs Tennessee, just ruled in 2021 in the Meriwether-Hartog that, again, you cannot compel speech. So you may want to instruct the schools to stop telling teachers and students that they must compel speech and say something they don't believe, like when a biological male wants to be called a she. No one has to do that. The government cannot compel speech. So let's go to my favorite subject, sex education. I still am not sure how not having the curriculum satisfies something that is very specific in law. Prior to adopting a family-like curriculum, the school district shall conduct at least one public hearing, at which time the program shall be explained to members of the public, and the public shall have the opportunity to speak and express their opinions and concerns. Impossible when you don't have anything in front of you. I think it was, I don't know how many slides, but maybe 9, 12. How's that sex ed curriculum for the entire district? So I want to talk about some of the things that I think are really good in Tennessee law. So I'm going to start with some of the consequences. A parent or legal guardian of a student enrolled in Family Life may file a complaint with the director of schools if the parent or legal guardian believes that a teacher, instructor, or representative of the organization has not complied with the requirements of this law. It goes on. If a student receives instruction by an instructor or an organization that promotes gateway sexual activity, which is defined in the law, or demonstrates sexual activity as prohibited by the law, then the parent legal guardian shall have a cause of action against that instructor or organization in damages plus reasonable attorney fees in court. Any district-approved organization, instructor employed by the district who promotes gateway sexual activity, demonstrates it, teaches students non-abstinence as appropriate or acceptable behavior, shall be subject to a cause of action by a parent or legal guardian. The parent or legal guardian is the prevailing party in the action. The court may impose a civil fine. So, having said that, I just want to go through a few laws that tell you what you must teach that I'm not sure Glencoe is teaching. It is specific. Emphatically promote only sexual risk avoidance through abstinence regardless of the student's current or prior sexual experience. I have a feeling that's not how, whatever it is that they're writing that we can't see. It says the school district shall not utilize services of any individual or organization to assist in teaching life if that individual or organization endorses student non-abstinence. How how many people in the writing of the curriculum endorse student non-abstinence or work for an organization that does that? But you're writing the curriculum under this law. Instruction of family life, again, you must teach the age of consent. That's not consent in how you get someone to consent, because consent under the age of 18 in Tennessee is not legal. But it talks about assisting students in learning and practicing refusal skills that will help them resist sexual activity. So I'd like to know how many units are covering and it actually talks about role-playing refusal skills. Again, I don't see the curriculum. A cadre of special interest people have gotten to see it, but the public has not gotten to see it. It talks about it shall not promote implicitly or explicitly any gateway sexual activity or health message that encourages students to experiment. There's a lot in the law that I don't think they're covering.
Thank you, Ms. Amy.
You are so welcome. You're welcome.
I talked to this board and this district over the past year about how this district has consistently allowed the students to be groomed under their watch, mainly by allowing pornography to be viewed on school computers with little or no intervention. You do not have an alternative curriculum besides the computer that is connected to the internet, which has incredibly faulty software that does not protect from porn, amongst many other horrific things. If you remember, actually skipping that, so not to my surprise, was the fact that I found out that at CMCSS library shelves have pornography easily accessible to children. Now, since last year you didn't believe me, and you consistently believed a district that still to this date has yet to rectify a current situation, I'm going to read some excerpts. Trigger warning, which is sad because this book doesn't have one. This is just all I had time for, but I'm pretty sure it's on every library shelf at the high schools in this district. Specifically, Kenwood has 2 copies, CHS has 1 copy, called The Lovely Bones. Let me tell you, it's not lovely. Here is the excerpt about the book that is on your card catalog, or whatever the heck they call it with the technology these days. I'm archaic with card catalog. 14-year-old Susie Solomon, the victim of a sexual assault and murder, looks on from alternative as her family deals with the grief and waits for her killer to be brought to some type of justice. That sounds like something our high schoolers should be reading. And even furthermore, ironically, given the talk of tonight, it is under the category of family life. That's what this book is under. It's also under homicide, not sure why we even need that category in high school, girls, fiction, teenagers fiction, psychological fiction, domestic fiction, paranormal fiction. Mr. Harvey, I really have to go home. Take off your clothes. What? Take off your clothes, Mr. Harvey said. I want to check if you're still a virgin. I am, Mr. Harvey. I want to make sure your parents will thank me. My parents? They only want good girls. Mr. Harvey, I said, please let me leave. You aren't leaving, Susie. You're mine now. I fought hard. I fought as hard as I could, not to let Mr. Harvey hurt me, but my hard as I could was not hard enough, not even close. I was very soon lying down on the ground, in the ground, with him on top of me, panting and sweating. But he grew tired of hearing me plead. He reached into his pocket in the pocket of my parka and pulled out the hat my mother had made me, smashing it in my mouth. The only sound I made after that was weak tinkling of bells. I wept and struggled so I would not feel. He ripped open my pants, not having found the invisible zipper my mother had artfully sewn into their side. Big white panties, he said. He was inside me. He was grunting. I was a mortar. He was the pistol. I would hope every one of you is appalled and disgusted. I'm a sexual assault victim, so this was very triggering for me to even read. It's very triggering for me to read again tonight. I can't even imagine Number one, why we would need this, what literary value this brings to our children. But number two, think of every child victim that you just normalize this behavior for when they pick up this book. I could go on and on about what that actually does to them and how terrible that is. I'd also like to let you guys know, it is ironic to me that a librarian, multiple librarians, have put this book across your district. Some of them 2 copies. Yet a librarian at St. Elementary wouldn't let my first grader check out Judy B. Jones. I had to call and give permission because the book was too hard for him to read. Can you wrap your heads around that, y'all? The first grader needed parental permission to check out Judy B. Jones. You should go check it out, it's a great book. Very child appropriate. This book, not one parent's gonna be contacted, nor should it be provided by adults to children. You are providing pornography to children. You are grooming them, period. At some point, y'all need to stand up and start taking an active approach in fixing this district. The buck stops with you, and if this book is still in there in a month or 2 months or 3 months, it is because of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ken Baker.
Hello, everybody. I'm coming up here to speak today on teacher pay salary. I know I've talked with one of your members up here, and I've also talked to a couple of the county commissioners on how the pay works and how you guys are supposed to communicate with them. I've noticed that a lot of our meetings, at the end, you're waiting for the county commission to talk to you. But after I talk to some of the county commissioners, you are supposed to tell them what they need to go back and talk to the county commission when they convene on what they need. And so I know that I've talked to some of the teachers, and there is a 2% COLA increase that's happening this year. But if you look at what is actually happening with inflation, we're going up from 11%, 8%, 9%. And so what the teachers are getting now is not competing with what is actually happening. So I just want to go over some of the different points that I have here. So the National Education Society is saying that around 53% of teachers that get their education at a bachelor's is about 58,700, and people that actually have a master's have about 105,000 that they're paying for their education. So putting that at 58,700, you're looking at a 30-year loan, 5%, so they're paying about $342 out of their own pocket. And then you got the average rent that's going up around here. Money Magazine just put out that Clarksville is expected to grow by 2040 by about another 90,000 people. And so we need to also take that into account with our schools and everything else. We need to make sure that we're bringing in quality teachers. And again, I think extra pay is going to be good for that. I know I talked to some of the other teachers, so looking online, if you work within the city or the government, you're supposed to be able, after 10 years, to get your loans forgiven for your student debt. 98% of the teachers are not qualifying for that, and they're not telling them specifically why. So they'd be working in the district for 10 years, and they're not getting that loan forgiven by the federal government like they said they were. National Metro they're getting a pay increase. Not only are they getting a step increase, but they're also getting a 4% increase. The city of Clarksville, I talked to their HR department, and based on inflation, the entire city of Clarksville, all of their workers are getting a 5% increase, and only not all of our teachers are getting a 2% increase. It said, I've also looked up, it says that the majority of teachers are paying about $1,000 out of their own pocket every year to fund their classrooms. Personally, the way that we used to do it back in the day is they would have areas where the teachers could go, they could check out stuff to help fund their classrooms. I see every year since I've been here in the district, we moved back here in 2017, I'm sending gallons and gallons of hand sanitizer to the schools for the children because some of the other teachers can't provide it. I shouldn't have to do that. We're already paying for this. And again, the county commission is waiting for you to say, we need this increase, and they will take it back and help fund it. They're just waiting for you to say this to them. And also I bring this up because something else had happened at Rossview on Friday. Why is this personal to me? Because my children were right there. So let me tell you what the kids were passing around, what the kids had seen, and what they're telling each other. There was 11 fights. There was a taser and pepper spray deployed, 3 people left in cuffs, 14 cop cars, 2 ambulances, 1 fire truck, One child was set on fire. Granted, one of the students brought in a lighter and set it on there. It was a little thing. The kid put it out, but still the damage was done. And then the assistant principal was grabbed by the hair, thrown around, and then was brought out in a neck brace and taken out in an ambulance. So all I'm asking is we need to bring in teachers. We need them. And I think that with everything that they've had to put up with, I believe that a pay increase is exactly what is needed. We need to be better prepared. Nashville is growing by leaps and bounds. There is a job that you can get down. I look down there in Nashville. I can work at one of their souvenir shops and make $25 an hour, which is more than what the starting pay is to be a teacher with a bachelor and master's degree here in Clarksville. So I'm just asking that you would please go back to your pay department and ask them for at least a 5% pay increase to match what the city of Clarksville is doing, just so that we can make sure that we're getting that we're competitive and we're getting the teachers here that will put us ahead of everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Ms. Bledsoe?
Hi, y'all. I just want to start by saying that is a beautiful sight, and I am so proud to see you up there, Erin. Congratulations, and we are very, very excited to have you. The main reason why I'm so excited to have you is because you're an advocate. So I'm going to start tonight by reading the definition of advocacy. Advocacy, one who defends or maintains a cause or proposal, one who supports or promotes the interest of a cause or group. He has paid respectful attention to the homeschool, that's a little side note. One who pleads the cause of another. Each one of you that ran in this election asked for the public to put to you the vote of confidence because they need an advocate. They need somebody that's going to be an active participant and to advocate for their children. That's what you signed up to do. Miss Berry, as an educator, did you ever have to have fear that you would be pulled around by your hair in your classroom? Because that's what happened to one of our administrators this last month. We need advocates in these schools. Our kids are not safe right now. You have one responsibility as a school district, and that is to provide a safe and healthy learning environment above all else. Currently, our system is not safe and healthy when we have to worry about some of the violence issues that are taking place that we've already described. We need advocates. I understand that this board has been asked by a previous director of schools to not be an active presence in your schools. Dr. House is no longer here. We now have Jean Vetter. And Jean Vetter has worked very hard over the course of the last month with the unseen 8th board member, Josh Beal, who has been an active advocate for the people in not just his district, but in some of yours. Because he was advocating for the people that he has asked to place that level of confidence in him, because he knew that there was an issue. We have an issue with the safety of our kids in the parent responsibility zones because we don't have sidewalks. And these little teeny kids are walking on streets that I wouldn't even let my 18-year-old or 17-year-old walk on. This is a safety issue, guys. And we need you guys to be active participants in the schools that you have now asked to place the public trust to go and represent. Each one of you has schools that you represent. We need you in there. And thank you, Erin, because I know you've already made a huge effort to be in all of those schools. So we need advocates, and we need you guys to do that job. And thank you, Jean, for working so hard now over the course of the last month to try to correct that issue. I appreciate all your work, but we need you guys to step up to the advocacy role, please.
Thank you. Item 2, surplus property child nutrition equipment.
Yes, I believe in your packet you should have a list in accordance with TCA 4962007. We are recommending on behalf of child nutrition the items listed that should be declared surplus or salvage and sold by public auction through an online site which serves only governmental agencies, and all monies would be issued back to the child nutrition department. All of these items would be removed from property control upon completion of disposal or being sold.
Item 3, AMO data, Dr. Kenny.
Glorious evening. We are getting ready to enter the data season for the districts to find out what occurred at the end of the year. And so this is the first piece that we're getting ready to start with. The state updated, and so this year there will be no report card grades. They analyzed the data across the state, and the absenteeism statewide for COVID was still intense, so they felt that they needed to wait one more year before the awarding of grades to the schools. And the second piece is they asked for a waiver on the 95% participation rate. As you know, it is a federal rule that the students participate in the state assessments at 95% that the districts are held to. And so they've asked for a waiver, it's being granted. And so that helps because any school that didn't meet that gets an automatic 0 and gets an F in the achievement category. So looking forward, what you have is a chart with a list of the different points that we are held accountable to. And I've also provided a chart that shows how it is scored or analyzed in terms of a high school versus an elementary, middle school. And so the categories that we have achievement, that's what children know, how well they mastered the standards. We will have growth. Growth are the children gaining an academic year's worth of growth. Ready graduate, these are children who have met the criteria to graduate from high school and be identified as college and career ready, regardless of which one they choose. We get the graduation rate. This piece of data, when you look at it, is what we call lag data. Children are permitted the 4 years and a summer to be considered an on-time graduate. And so that data isn't finalized until late into the year. And so they use the previous cohort. So the data that you'll see in the calculation is not the 22 graduation rate, but the 21. Chronically out of school, these are children who miss 10% or more of their academic year. And that includes any reason that they're out of school. Excused, unexcused absence, out of school suspension, any time that they are not in attendance in school. And then the English language proficiency is an assessment that measures the acquisition of academic language. And so the children take a placement test at the beginning of the year, and throughout the year they receive the EL supports, and at the end of the year they take an exit test, and it measures the gains that they're making in this language acquisition. They also updated that the report card will not be released until November. So the district, as I shared in the chart, you can see the high school, each of those gets weighted, and then in the elementary, let me go back for one slide. If you look at the elementary, it will have achievement, the value added, chronic absenteeism, and the ELPA. But the high schools get it all. They have all of those, plus they will have the ready graduate and the graduation rate. When you move to the district, it's all held to the district. We are measured against each and every item from elementary, middle, and high. So as you look at the chart, it says that there's 2 ways that you can meet a target. You can meet it by something that's called absolute, or you can meet it by meeting the AMO target that was set for your school. So absolute means that the state set a list of scores, and if you meet those scores, you get those. So on the first one there, if you look, I have achievement. So it says if our school met the 45% or more of the students met the mastery level or proficiency on the assessment, then you automatically get that score regardless of what your AMO target was. AMO are targets that are set for the school. So the school itself is working to gain against targets on their own targets. So maybe I didn't get 44 or 45%, But last year we were 18 and this year we're 25. That gives us the opportunity, we met our target and we move on. So for every one of the measures that was listed there, you have an absolute target and you have an AMO target. They adjusted the chronic absenteeism as the state continues to struggle with the chronic absenteeism, as does the schools. This is one that's near and dear to our hearts because in order to be successful, you need to be in school. And so the state adjusted the targets and we're working toward meeting all of these targets. The Ready Graduate, these are, right now, the number one way to be identified as a Ready Graduate is to make a 21 composite on the ACT. That means that I can go on to college and make a B in the aligned course, or I should make a B in the aligned course. And so that's why they've set that target out there for us. And then the bottom chart that you're looking at is the ELPA growth. And so based on whatever my score is, I get a measure that says that I am meeting that growth, and each of the children are measured against themselves as they gain it. This has been released, so this is already on the Tennessee State website. Here are the value-added scores. I've provided a chart to the right that says this is how it works. So expected growth is the section in the middle. If you do everything you're expected to do and the children make appropriate academic growth, you get a 3. That's expected. It's like a C. And so if you exceed that, you get a 4 or 5. If you don't quite reach that target, you get a 1 or a 2. And to the left, you see our scores. This is a way that the districts look at the data so that we understand each of the categories and how we're measured. So you can see we're held accountable to all those targets, and we're held to those targets for each of the subgroups. It's not just a building. So we have to go through and look at the all student. BHN is Black, Hispanic, and Native American. ED is economically disadvantaged. EL is the English learners, and SWD is students with disability. On the bottom, they are not doing the report card grades, but they will identify a district as one of 4 designations. Your goal is to be in the 2 designations to the right, and so you'll notice that it says that there's marginal, satisfactory, advancing, and exemplary. Advancing and exemplary is where the district would like to land. We will know that information on the 12th. Questions?
I might have missed it. Why was the EL blank on the Tennessee Ready?
Great question. So if a subgroup does not have enough students to report the data, 10 or more, they leave it blank. That school would be held to what is called a super subgroup. And so then they would take all of the subgroups together and they would create a super subgroup for that school to work on that target. So we have a few schools that may not have enough students in a subgroup to report on. The district has enough in all of them. That's why the district will have every subgroup.
Are the EL ratings, grades, are they still above average?
Yes.
Way above?
Not that I can say a lot until the 12th, but you're on a trend there.
Concerning the chronic the absenteeism, is there a distinction or waiver for the students that are ill, like cancer or long-term COVID?
That is an excellent question. So there is something called a medical exemption. So during the time of the assessment, we're allowed to ask for those. And these are students that there's no way they can access the learning environment. So they're not on homebound, because as you know, some of our students that are medically fragile, etc., they are accessing homebound, so they would be counted as present. But there are some opportunities for children in those situations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Renaud, resolution budget amendments, quickly.
Yes, those favorite things. Okay, my favorite thing, how about that? Again, I just wanted to give you a heads up and remind y'all, and Aaron, again, welcome. Primarily, the main focus of this budget amendment is, one, to adjust ending balances from where we ended, because if y'all remember the last time I submitted the budget to the county, to you and the county was back in April, and as much as I hate to say it, some things change over 5 months. So you'll see some fund balance impacts and then some shifts in our expenses based on strategy and plan changes. So we'll go over GP first. Here you'll see we had an increase in we've actually allocated for our state safe school acts that we were allocated from the state. We did have some carryovers, so you see the $336,000 in other state education fund. And then the next line item you'll see under state grants, a reduction of $250,000. That was a reduction in our SRO grant. And I want to calm everybody's nerves. We didn't have a reduction in SRO staffing. That's just money that the state gave us that we passed through to Montgomery County Sheriff Office. And then you'll see we're forecasting an increase in our air grant awarded of $161,000 that we'll use to expense for our intervention in first and second grade. On the next page, you see that I did a bad job of budgeting for a career ladder. That's just a timing issue. We get that reimbursement from the state. So I do expect us to be made whole before usually our payments come in December 1st, but I just wanted to get a good picture of where we truly are right now for our career ladder. But that is the prepaid through fund balance. We'll cover the fund balance until we get reimbursed from the state. And then here's the other one I want to highlight up here. Beginning fund balance came in very favorable, as you can see. So the result of that is we got $7.5 million in extra sales tax and will tax that we weren't anticipating or budgeting. We also had a $5 million savings in salaries and benefits through open positions that we had. And then we also added to fund balance $1.7 million for a math curriculum that we were going to adopt, but we weren't able to do that this year, but we're going to go through that adoption this year. And then we also gained an additional $1 million from our growth in BEP. Any questions on revenue, GP? All right, under expenses, you can see this is where under regular instruction, I'm adding an increase in expenses of $1.7 million, which was, I don't like the term carryover, but that's the additional fund that we had for textbook adoption, so we'll be using that this year. And then under special education, what you'll see is a reduction in expenses under salaries. We actually have about $700,000 in reduction for speech pathologists and teachers of gifted students that we're having difficulty filling those positions, so we're gonna go out and use contracted services to meet the needs of our students in the district right now. Continue to recruit for those positions, but right now we want to come up with a solution for our students in those programs. And then you see that addition or increase in expenses for contracted services of $800,000. The reason why you're not seeing a matchup at the $409,000 is because we've also hired 10 additional SPED EAs for our students. So there was an increased expense for that. So not a one-to-one offset. Under vocation, you see we added some money for our CTE equipment, 2 of our schools. And then you'll see a reduction in equipment. We're using those funds to fund an accounting tech that you'll see in vocational education support that we'll see with the funding that we're getting from the state under their new CTE program. We felt it was beneficial to have some fiscal management on the CTE side. Under student services, again, based on our growth, we saw the need for another attendance teacher. So here you see the salaries and benefits of $72,000 added for student services. Under health services, that was just moving money around to align for what we wanted, to use our coordinated school health budget. So you can see the offset nets at 0 under health services. Under other student support, minimal increase, $12,500, primarily setting up our safe schools accounts based on the revenue that we got from the state that we got awarded. Under regular instruction support, you see some additional funding for air. That's the expense to offset the revenue that we're getting from our air grant that we've been awarded. You also see some safe schools allocation there. The other big one is our IDA, our IDA expenses we anticipate going up for the rest of the year. And then again, budgeting for our safe schools based on the allocation we were awarded from the state. And this will be the last year, just so y'all know, for SRO grant, Coordinated School Health Grant, and Safe Schools grant. So those will be funded through TCIP going forward. Under vocation, I mentioned that we had a reduction in equipment under vocational expenses. So you'll see vocational support. This is again hiring an accounting technician to support our CTE team. Under Board of Education, we had a slight increase in our liability insurance premiums. Under Director of Schools, you can see that we had minimal increase in expenses, most of those associated with our ISO certification, and then there's some additional expenses we anticipate in staff development. Under Printing and Communication, the largest expense is $7,000 for a large format printer for our print shop. Under Office of the Principal, here we added an additional AP to support Minglewood and their plans to improve their performance. So you'll see half of it is being funded through title, half of it is funded through GP, so that's where you see the increase. The GP portion of it is $53,000.
Excuse me, Bruce,
Yes, sir.
go back to that slide right before that.
Yes, sir.
I saw charter schools here, is that right? Charter application review.
Yes, sir. So we charged charter schools, or the state allowed us to charge charter schools a fee for reviewing their charter school materials. And we passed that, we used some of those fees for food during our meetings. And then also non-school employed members were eligible to receive a $500 stipend.
The state furnished that money?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excuse me, thank you.
We still made money on the deal. Good question now. So, I maybe lose my place, Patterson.
I didn't want you to try to find it.
So again, we talked about the AP, business affairs. My biggest expense is that we've had some contracted services come in higher than we budgeted for. And then I am also bringing on a temporary person to help train some individuals in my team as we've expanded, so. Under human resources, the largest expenses, our uppeak contract came in a little higher than what we budgeted. And then also, in case you are aware, we're going through a full market analysis for all of our classified employees to understand our compensation rates and how competitive they are, and then making necessary adjustments to our budget if applicable based on that market analysis. So that's where you see the fees for those. And then under salaries, we pay a stipend to our Lipscomb residents. To offset that, Lipscomb has reduced the amount that they're charging us for our residents that are facilitated through Lipscomb University. Under operation of the plant, we reduced a position there to create another position that you'll see in the transportation budget. So this is a reduction of that individual, and then you'll see an added expense for salaries when we get to the transportation fund. And then Kirkwood Middle, we finally got an estimate on what the utilities will cost, so there's $300,000 for that. And then we did get some favorable variance on our building insurance, so they see a reduction in insurance premiums of $88,000. Maintenance of the plants, we did have an increase in our transportation premium of about $2,666. So overall, we're given, we increased our fund balance by 21 million with the addition of the expenses, 3.1 million in expenses. We're still adding a favorable contribution to our fund balance of $18 million. Any questions on GP? All right. Child nutrition, we've already got $1,000 this year. I just like my numbers to always match and be as true to the nearest date as possible. So I'm adding $1,000 that we received on collections from USDA this year so far. And the other positive note is the USDA gave us an additional $3.6 million more than what I budgeted for our fund balance. So, because as y'all remember, the last 2 years have been free meals reimbursed by the USDA at their rate, and they're discontinuing that program. You'll see some increased expenses, primarily associated with Kirkwood Middle. As we've gotten online, we've anticipated to get a better projection on what our expenses will be associated with Kirkwood Middle. And then we've had a remodel upgrade for Barksdale that we're adding to this budget for $700,000. Overall, contributing fund balance is increasing by $2.8 million. Any questions about child nutrition? Transportation. Transportation came in favorable, $3.2 million, so we put that in fund balance. The biggest expenses you'll see, this is the position that we took out, the textbook distribution manager and operations of the plan, and we've added a safety and discipline coordinator to support our bus aides and bus drivers and facilitate as that intermediary between the school and transportation operations department. So you see the added salary and benefits, and then adding an additional $63 million in expense for as we build out our second dispatch center for their transportation. Overall, a positive contribution to fund balance of $3.1 million, so we'll be at $4 million, which is a healthy fund balance for transportation. Extended school, this is me just truing up. We ended up the year with the extended school program favorable $750,000. That's just going straight into fund balance, and that just carries throughout the expense side as well. So no anticipated expenses. We'll start budgeting for that earlier next year. Capital projects. I just wanted to include the $3.5 million that we were awarded by the county commission. So putting that into our bond proceeds line, and then associating those expenses with that 3.5, because you'll not have to spend everything that I get. 2.6 million primarily out of two projects. That's a Northeast Middle roofing project, and then waterproofing and roofing Greenwood as well, and at about $2.6 million. And then we're going to spend $900,000 at various elementary and high schools doing site upgrades and maintenance. Is that fast enough, Mr. Patterson? Any questions? Thank you.
Item 5, discuss resolution concerning letter from the state of Tennessee to change to the 10-point rating system.
Good evening, board. So, as we know, this year, Tennessee legislature instituted a change in our grading where we've changed from the 7-point system to the 10-point system. And currently, that's been pretty much an injustice that's been corrected for some time. Because under the old grading system, it made it unfair to our students who are going to other states to go to school where they were required to have a certain grade point average. Because of the 7-point system, they would tend to have a lower grade point average. So that's kind of what they've corrected. So if you had between a 90 and 100, in other districts or other states, that would be considered an A. But if you had it within ours, I believe it's 93 to 100, that's an A. But if you had a 90 to 92, you had a B. And that would, naturally reduce your GPA. So that's been corrected through the legislature. What we're looking for now is to try to make that retroactive for our students, especially for the COVID period, where students were having inconsistencies with their classroom settings and their classes, where they had to switch from online to in class, and thereby kind of affecting some of the gradings that some students had, where they may receive some lower marks. What I'm proposing is that and we've been asked this by parents, but what we're requesting is that we go to the state legislature, we ask them to make that retroactive for anyone who's in high school at this period, actually, for the seniors. So anyone who's a senior from this point, we're asking that they consider their entire high school career to have that, having to switch to the 10-point system instead of having it on the 7-point system, which affects the GPA. Now, naturally, there's a cost associated with this, and I propose that we would actually request that the state incur that cost for making those changes to the grades. And just to make it fair for our students and not leave them on an unfair playing field as far as competing with students from other states. That's the proposal. Questions?
So you propose to have that on our formal session?
Yes, I propose that we get a resolution together. And I've also reached out to our TSBA attorney to see if there's any other school districts also pursuing something similar to that, to Ben Torres, and I'm waiting to hear back from him, because I think that would add more horsepower if we had multiple districts requesting the same type of consideration.
And probably the state would have to, do it for all districts, you know, if they did approve it and everything, not just ours.
Absolutely. Well,
Do we know the typical timeline it takes to hear back from a matter like this?
So the legislative period, I think, is in February when they go to vote for this, but I think, you know, we start the ball rolling at this point. You know, it may take effect. I'm hoping that it'll affect our seniors for this year, but because of the legislative period, that may not really accommodate those, that may affect our 11th graders, and beyond.
I think this is absolutely great. I remember in 5th grade when this got changed, so, yeah.
Do we have,
That did me.
do we have the language for this resolution?
There's that verbiage, we've got drafts of it, and I can provide you a draft of what was put together, but I've reached out to those smarter than me, and how the legislation needs to be formed, legislation needs to be formed, so.
The reason why I asked, you probably need to submit that to TSBA and see if they will actually run it across the state. All 95 counties. I'll be glad to present it if you need to.
Yes, sir.
All righty, any other comments? Any other comments from board members? I'm sorry.
Just comments in general?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say hello to everybody, and excited about being on the board, and congratulations to those who won their elections this cycle, and I can't wait to work with you guys in the future.
You were one of those 10th graders before they changed this.
It'd be great.
ABC grade.
It'd be great if we can make the letter say retroactively, just go back my 5th grade year before.
You're so young and everything, that's what I was thinking about. Other business, Dr. Linda.
Yes, as you may know, tomorrow is the 20th day of school, which we have been anxiously awaiting, as that's the number that's most widely utilized for our student enrollment count. As of today, we are currently at almost 38,900 students attending our public schools here in Clarksville, Montgomery County, which is approximately 1,000 students more than we had last year at this time. We have continued to create additional growth positions for both certified and classified staff to accommodate for those unique student needs as well as those growing numbers. So while we have onboarded 478 teachers as of today, we do still have approximately 50 certified positions that we are continuing to strive to find the right fit, especially in math, science, and special education. I do want to thank our building administrators, faculty, and staff members for a great beginning to the school year. As I've gone on numerous school visits, I've been thrilled to see the positive energy and excitement throughout the buildings. I've witnessed everything from accelerated reader kickoffs to STEM classes, choir rehearsals, engaging math lessons, and focused literacy. And I really want to say thank you to everyone who plays a part, whether that's the SROs providing security, it's the custodial staff making sure our buildings are clean, or those educators and educational assistants welcoming students. We truly are better together. And finally, I want to say one last welcome to our newly elected school board member, Erin Mayberry. We're excited to have you join the board and look forward to working collaboratively with you in the future. Mr. Patterson, that concludes my report.
We've got to inform you, the newest board member, the first time we all go out to eat, you bet. We are adjourned.